Just go ahead, Booby.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Tim. Welcome to
BeFortheVillage
Beat for
Soul-Filled
the Village
Sundays.
Soul-Filled Sunday. Yay! Thank you. So happy to have you all with us today. Um, yes. So I'm going to introduce Jariva.
Hi, my name is Jariva. My pronouns are she and her, and I am here to guide you on a brief meditation after Tim goes over his drum talk. So happy to have us. Wow, so happy to have you with us, April. We're having
All right.
tongue-tied talks today.
All right. For my drum talk today, I'm borrowing a lot of inspiration from this book called The Drums of Voodoo. It's a book that I picked up. I don't even half price books, but it's been years ago, and I happened to see it recently, and I knew I wanted to thumb through it and see if there was anything here that I wanted to use. So this is where most of my inspiration today comes from. So I was refreshing my content for today and realized that in the voodoo tradition, they have drums that are similar to the West African drums that I introduced last week. I introduced the Dunun family, if you remember. The Dundumba is the father drum, the Samba is the mother drum, and the Kinkini is the mother drum.
Baby drums.
The baby drum.
You said mother drum.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Kinkini. Thank you. Kinkini is the baby drum, but we have a family of three, and that pattern of three also shows up in the Haitian tradition. So I'm not as familiar, so I'm going to rely on my notes a lot more today. But here we go. So music of African descent in general is said to be call and response type music. It reminds us of choirs, was a reference in the book, where you have a singer does all their part, sings, gets to a vamp, and then brings in the choir, and then the singer and the choir are alternating, singing some of the same lines. And so that same principle is honored in this music that descends from African descent. So we know that because of the African slave trade, the traditions out of the motherland ended up in the Caribbean, here in the United States, Brazil, and other places. And so there's a lot of common themes that follow that music through that migration. Each of the instruments in the ensemble have their own voice and pitch. I mentioned that last week, or you hear me always reference the deepest voice, the medium voice, the lightest voice. The same is found in the Haitian tradition. This is something I'm going to explore myself a little bit more. They talk about the instruments having double nature. They are physical matter, but they also, because they're sacred, have spiritual entities that speak through them, so that they're said to have double nature. So I thought that was cool and wanted to leave it in my notes to remind me to look that up. Haitian drums, like the African drums, are hollowed out from tree logs. I mentioned when we talk about the African drum, the djembe in particular, that there are specialized tools used to carve out the instrument. With the Haitian drums, they instead burn the inside to hollow it out. The reason they do it is to kill any insects that may be resident in the wood that would harm the instrument later on, because these are sacred. Because they use a burning technique, they say that the inside can also be smooth or smoother than a drum that's hewn with tools. So I found that pretty interesting. They said that the chiseling is what they call it, using tools. They contrast it with chiseling, leaves it with, you can get splintered. Is what we tell a lot of people when you're handling a djembe. Don't put your hand in there, because you never know how finished the inside of that drum is going to be. More time is required to produce the Haitian drum, and they said that there are some that are going to make the drums with modern tools, but because the drums are sacred, the priests that want a true and authentic drum are going to make sure they get one that was hollowed out with fire, because they know that it's been purified, it's sacred. The energy of that drum is going to be different from one that was carved with tools, chiseled with tools. They also said that we know, well, we don't, I don't want to say we know. When the priests go to sacrifice animals, there is a whole process used to select the animal. I found it interesting that they talk about the same is true when they select the tree. It has to be done at the right time of the month, when the moon is full, in a tree that's been watered or treated a certain way, so that when they get ready to sacrifice that tree, it's all part of the sacred ritual. So I was like, wow, it got deeper than I have gone, even with the djembe, which makes me want to go back with the djembe to say, okay, there may be, I don't want to call it folklore, but there's more to that I need to understand about the djembe than I have today. So I'm hoping I can find a book similar to this that goes into this depth. The outside of the drums are shaved or carved with machetes. I think that's similar to what we see in West Africa with the djembe. The outside of the Haitian drums are typically smooth, and today they cover them in paintings of what's called a veve. I hope I pronounced that right. Veve with some accent marks. And what veve is a Haitian voodoo ritual emblems that have their origins in African and indigenous cultures. They're made of a combination of elements typically drawn on the floor during the voodoo ceremonies to invoke the Iwa or spirits. Their characteristics vary and serve as concrete representation of the specific Iwa that participants wish to call in that particular ceremony. So with the Haitian drums, they'll take those images and actually paint them on the side of the drums. I've seen something similar in Brazil, specifically with the group Oludan. They paint the side of their drum of course, with the colors of Brazil, but then there are also symbols on there that are spiritual symbols. So we see that carried throughout the diaspora. Similar to djembes and the dunes, the head of the drums can either be goat skin or cow skin, and I'll talk about more. They note that the skins that they put on these sacred instruments come from animals that went through some sacred ritual. So there's purpose and intention behind every piece and element of that instrument. I don't myself know exactly how they prepare goat skins and cow skins for the African drums, but here they actually boil them with ashes. The same ash, I think, that's used to hollow out the drum so that everything just kind of stays together. And I'm like, wow, y'all are just really deep. Nothing goes to waste, and there's intention and purpose, again, behind everything from start to finish. When they intend to build a drum and they select the tree, the animal, all the way through the construction of the drum. So there are a couple, I think it's 5 elements that I'm going to talk about. They have this thing called battery, which I believe is synonymous with family. So we're going to talk about a few of them. So the first one I want to talk about is the Rada, R-A-D-A. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. It is the most common battery today. It's played for Rada, the Rada branch, and the Rada branch seems to tie back to, I believe, African tribes or regions. I'm not familiar with the Rada and Nago nations. When we talk about the next battery, I am familiar with those countries, so I'm just accepting it as this is true. And there's links to the Yoruba tribe in West Africa, so we know that one out of Nigeria, Benin and Togo. They liken the set to the Holy Trinity. So, of course, there's 3 different sized drums. So, with the Holy Trinity, there's Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Others liken it to the Holy Family, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, in terms of Christianity. The 3 drum names are Mammon, Segon, and Bula. They are shaped in a cone shape, which makes these unique. What I found really, really interesting is I wasn't expecting this, is I've been saying with the African drums that the dun dun ba, the largest, deepest voice, represents the mother. Represents the father. With this Rada drum, that the manan is the largest drum with the deepest voice, and it's actually the mother, and it is the instrument of the master drummer. And I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that at all. Sagon is the father, or the second middle drum. It has a medium voice, and then of course the bula is the child, has the lightest voice. Of the three, no. Okay, so that's that. The drums are headed with cowskin, which to me would imply that they're going to strike it with a stick, and if you guess that, you would be right. So it seems that the two big drums, they're playing with a stick in their hand, which reminds me of the tradition that comes out of Ghana with the Ewe drums. But the child drum, the bule, they actually play with two sticks. The shapes of the sticks that they play on each drums is actually a little bit different as well. I'm not going to go into all of that, but that was kind of cool. They tune the drums with a system of pegs. So when they put the head of the animal on, they lace it up and down around all of the pegs. They can strike a peg to tighten that skin to bring the pitch up, and then they said they can loosen the peg to drop the pitch. So that is kind of cool. So that is specifically with the Rada battery. They have another drum that can also accompany the Rada battery, and it's called a bas, B-A-S, and just think about a tambourine, because that's what it is. This one, though, they actually, some of them, they call it a frame drum, so some of them actually drill holes or put holes around the frame, and the lacing won't be on the back side of the frame, so then they kind of have to cup the instrument as they play it and strike it. This one, they actually lace the bottom so that you can imagine putting your fingers around that webbing and then playing the drum, but it's held specifically with your fist in between the lacing. So I found that interesting that they actually brought that out. So the sticks that they play are curved, hooked, typically not straight on the two big drums, but on the bullish drum, the smallest one, that one is almost always played with two straight sticks. Okay. Moving on to the Petwo, P-E-T-W-O battery. It is said to be in direct opposition to the Rada battery. They also have, this set of drums is structured so that it serves the spirits of what is called the Petwo branch. And this is coming, I don't know all these names, but I recognize the tribes Igbo, Congo, Petwo, and the Gede nations is what this one supports. Okay. So they have two drums called the Baka, B-A-K-A, and the Tibaka. They're also known as Maman, which has the same name that comes from the Rada battery, and then also a Piti drum. Okay. These drums are played with the hands only, so they're going to be covered in goatskin. So that's the first difference that we have. And that's the first difference. This battery also adds a third drum that's similar to the bule, but it's called a kata, and it's played with sticks. And it's used primarily, I believe, in Port-au-Prince. And they say that Port-au-Prince uses it because that's where they have a lot of festivals for carnival and whatever. So when we listen to carnival music, the main instrument that we probably hear is this kata drum, and they said it actually makes the music hot. And when it's used, it's played by the lead drummer, and the direction comes from that drum, and the other two follow. These drums are also conically shaped. They're made out of softer wood, and they could have the goat skin on top. This one they're made and constructed similar to the djembe. So the djembe has 3-ring system, but this one uses a 2-ring system. There's a specific vine that they use to basically wrap the goat skin around on top. They put another loop at the bottom, and then they string it together and loop it. And then this drum actually gets tuned similar to the djembe drum, where they start putting in a series of knots, but not exactly like this, to actually tune it. So if you look at the drum, you would see kind of a diamond shape for a brand new untuned drum, and then as they tune it, they start flipping over the rope on itself, and then that's what's going to adjust the pitch. They also play the drum as a hand drum, slightly tilted, similar to the way we play the djembe drum. Okay, moving on. We have what's called the Congo Timbal. And to move on, it is very similar to the petwal drum. The difference in construction is there are holes around the top of the drum, and they affix the head of the drum and anchor it through the holes, so there's not a top loop and a bottom loop. That's the primary difference. The second difference is the drum, instead of being conical, is cylinder. So it stands up straight up and down, and it stands about 3 feet tall. It's made also with a softwood covered in goat skin, and uses a similar knot system to tune it. It also introduces another drum that's about 8 to 10 inches, similar to the kata drum I just talked about. They call this one a ka, and the ka must translate in Creole as quarter. So it's a quarter size of a full size drum. And the lead drummer plays that one similar to the carnival feel with the kata drum, and it's the principal instrument for that master drummer. Okay. Then I wanted to talk about there's one called an ogan. O, of course, when we see it, sometimes we're going to think about spirit, which is what it represents, circle. And then gan comes from I didn't write down the tribe, but I want to say it was the Fulan tribe. It means chief. So this gong is translated chief of the magic circle. And so it's made out of iron, and similar to what you see us strike on our songbands, they do the same thing. And somebody's just keeping time. They call it a clave type rhythm, and it keeps time for everybody in the ensemble. It's called the timeline instrument, and so every other instrument references it to play. This is called the chief because whoever plays this has to be a master, because if they falter, the entire ensemble falters. They might be able to correct it, but oftentimes they said the music will then get mixed up, or it actually gets lost and they have to stop. It's most commonly struck with an iron striker, but to improvise they'll use a rock or anything that they have. And if they can't find this traditional instrument, then they'll use a cowbell. So that was kind of cool. Okay, then the last thing I want to talk about are called sacred rattles. I haven't introduced the shakere yet. However, I brought mine out because these instruments are very similar to the shakere. So, their names are the Assan, A-S-O-N, and I'm going to say cha-cha. Just because I don't know better. The first one is the Assan. The Assan is basically a gourd, and today it is covered in beads. Traditionally, the drum was, I'm sorry, it's considered a drum. It's really just a gourd that's been hollowed out. And traditionally they would take snake membrane, is what I read, to actually cover the gourd because there was a relationship between the snake and one of the deities that's there. So there's like nobody's ever seen it. There's some that are there, one or two that are in a museum, so they know the history behind it. But most of them are going to be made today with colored beads. The Assan can only be played by a priest, which I found interesting. And they actually play two instruments at the same time. It says if they're right-handed, they're going to have, the Assan in their right hand. In their left hand, they're playing a bell. And that helps them keep time. They signal with the bell and keep time with the shaker, well, not shaker, right? The Assan. But it can only be done by a priest or someone that is, it's an initiation ceremony, and they're going to become a priest in that ceremony. That's the only time that those are the only people that play the Assan. And while the priest is playing the Assan and that bell, that priest is the conductor for everybody in the ensemble. So the master drummer is still there, but the priest is the conductor. So I thought that was kind of cool too. Then the tachada is also a gourd, but it is smaller and more round. And instead of having its, so it's round, it gets filled with licorice pellets, sealed off, and they put a handle on it. So think of like a baby rattle. It comes from the tachada is actually a tree, and it's called a flamboyant tree because it has pods that are filled with seeds that are used on other rattles. But that was kind of cool. Then this was, of everything that I read this morning to refresh my memory, there's I think she's an anthropologist named Karen Brown, says that what she finds interesting about the two instruments that the priests play, the Assan, the beads are, make sure I say it right, the beads are ordered because they're on a string and they have their specific place that they go, and they're interdependent. And it's outside, so it's visible. On the tachada, the pellets are on the inside, they're independent, and you don't see them. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the deities that they represent or the way that they just approach something with spirituality. So one is outward and ordered, where the other one is inside. And there's I mean, I'm sure there's order because it's staying confined within the gourd, but those pellets get to move around with independence. So that's something I definitely for myself want to go and explore more. They talk a little bit more in the book. I just didn't go there for today. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about. Next week they have other instruments that I'm going to, next month rather. So we're all familiar with the conch.
Conch shell?
Conch shell, yes. Mm-hmm. So it's the trumpet. And then they have a series of whistles and whips that are also part of this voodoo drum tradition. So I'm not familiar with that, and so I'm going to study. And June 5th, we'll be talking about it.
June 6th.
June 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I have. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed studying it, and again, look forward to bringing more out of it. It's a very small book, but there's a lot of information packed in here. It's only about 115 pages. So, more next time.
Thank you, Timoteo. That was a great talk. A lot of cool information in there, actually. So, let's just take a moment. We typically do an asana practice, but we're doing something a little different today because we're just going with the flow and just being in the moment and allowing Spirit to guide us. So let's just move into our meditation. Of course, the theme for this month, as we move into a new month starting yesterday, is bursting into bloom. And with bursting into bloom, it's a recognition that you have everything you need right here inside of you. That just like the seed, everything about its parent, everything it needs to grow into a full-grown plant, flower, or tree was already imprinted inside that little bitty shell. And so everything it needed was right there within it. And so it was the belief, the trust, and the process of that seed moving forward, bursting into the light, turning into the tree that made it what it is now. So as we burst into bloom, burst into ourselves, we're going to tap into our connection with our oneness with Spirit and know that everything we need is already contained within us. So as we begin to move into this meditation, I invite you to find a comfortable position in your body, something that feels right in your soul, and allow yourself to move into that space, into that place, rooting yourself, connecting yourself with Mother Earth, sitting on the floor, or perhaps letting your feet just touch the floor. But fall and rest into this pose, perhaps closing your eyes or focusing on something out in the distance. And just be here with us in this moment. Tapping into the inhale and the exhale. Allowing the breath to carry you even deeper into the stillness of this meditation. So Tim provided us with a wonderful talk about the Voodoo Drums. About drums that have and represent two aspects of being. About drums that were divinely selected, divinely prepared, divinely readied for their purpose, for their journey. For their meaning. So like these drums, we too have multiple aspects of our being. We too have a physical representation, our egoic self, our human self. We are of the mind, we are of the body. But we also have a second aspect of being, that being our higher self, our spirit self, the unwavering, the unfaltering, the knowing self. The self that's always steady, the self that is connected to Christ consciousness, the self that is true, that is authentic, that is real, that is us. The unique expression of the divine. And as divine beings having a human experience, we were prepared. We were selected. We were made into who we are right now and who we are becoming. That tree that was selected, that was processed, that was made into that drum. Is the walk that we have taken. It is the story of our life. For everything that has unfolded prior to now, and everything that will unfold from this point forward, is all in preparation and readying us to be divine beings of light that express that light, that love, that joy out into the world and bring change, transformation, and freedom. So as we recognize our connection with the drum, let's take the moment to understand our connection to spirit. And that everything that we need to burst into ourself is present right here, right now. We have been readied, we have been prepared, we have been made into who we are. Everything that we need to be the person that we were placed on this earth to be resides within us. It is already there. And so it is time for us to tap into that higher self. It is time to tap into that steady and faltering part of us that knows, that understands, and is clear. That part of ourself that knows that there is no lack, there is no limitation. That part of ourself that knows that there is nothing that can limit us or hold us back. That worry, doubt, fear, anger are just parts of our ego self. And when we release that, when we let it go, we surrender to spirit. All the divine qualities of spirit, love, abundance, health, wholeness, peace, serenity. They just unfold, manifest, and become just part of our existence, become part of our reality. So allow yourself to be at one with your higher self. Allow yourself to tap into who you really are. Allow all the preparation that has been done, the selection of you being the vessel of light, the life experiences that have led you to this moment, the spiritual work that you have done, to allow you to burst into you. and call you home to yourself. So take a moment to be in this and when the time comes for us to move out of the silence, I will be here to guide you out. So the time is nearing for us to move back into the world. But before we do so, let's take a moment to express appreciation and gratitude for this time. For the drum, for the breath, and for you. And allow this time, the rhythm and beat of the drum, to continue to move with you as you move out of this space back into the world. The rhythm and the beat of the drum is represented with your inhale and your exhale. Take that out into the world, allowing it to bring you back to this moment. This moment where you have tapped into you, all aspects of you. This time of knowingness of who you are. This time of connecting with your higher self. And this time of knowing that all things that have happened before this moment were meant to be, for they were part of the process to prepare you to be the person you were placed on this earth to be. And that everything that you need to be that person lies right within you. So at any point when that egoic part of yourself, the mind or body, takes over and perhaps moves you to a place of doubt, fear, concern, worry, or limitation, you use the breath to bring you back to this moment, to connect you with the rhythm and beat of the drum, with the steadiness, with the stillness. And it returns you back to a place of knowing, of not wavering, of not faltering, because you know the truth of your being. You know exactly who you are, and you know that everything that you need lies right within you. You have been divinely prepared, divinely ready for this moment in your life. Take your own individual beat, your own individual rhythm. Play it boldly and proudly and loudly. So begin to bring awareness back into your body. Perhaps shaking your head back and forth. Yes or no. Perhaps maybe wiggling those fingers, those toes. And when you have awareness and intention back into your body, when you are back in your space in this moment, I invite you to open your eyes. Be back with us. How are you feeling?
Very sad.
Glad to hear that. Well, glad you were able to join us, April. We appreciate you being here with us. Of course, we do this once a month, usually the first Sunday of the month from 1 to 2 Central Standard Time. Of course, in July, we will be making an adjustment to account for the July 4th holiday, so we'll be moving it to the second Sunday of the month. But we hope to see you back here with us again next month on the 6th. And then, of course, we have Self-Care Sunday coming up a couple of weeks from now from 2 to 4 on the 16th. Let me make sure. 16th of May, where we will be exploring bursting into bloom even deeper. All right. Timothy, you have any closing words?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. All right. Well, we love you, and we